This video is based on historical records, declassified documents, and academic research about events that took place in Iran in 1953. History is often shaped only by wars and treaties, but also by covert decisions made far from public view. One of the most debated examples of this is the 1953 political crises in Iran. At the center of this story was a man named Mohammad Mossadegh. Mossadegh was not a revolutionary general or a military leader. He was a politician, a lawyer, and the democratically elected Prime Minister of Iran. In the early 1950s, Iran faced a major political and economic conflict that would eventually draw the attention of global powers. To understand what happened, we need to go back to the issue that triggered everything. Oil. For decades, Iran's oil industry had been controlled largely by foreign companies. The most powerful of these was the British-owned Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. Although Iran possessed the natural resources, a significant portion of the profits went abroad. Many Iranians believed this arrangement was unfair. When Mossadegh became prime minister in 1951, he supported a bold decision. Iran would nationalize its oil industry. Nationalization meant that the country itself would take control of oil production and revenues. Inside Iran, this move was extremely popular. But outside the country, the reaction was very different. Britain strongly opposed the decision. The British government argued that the nationalization violated existing agreements and threatened economic stability. In response, Britain imposed an oil embargo on Iran. This meant that Iranian oil could no longer be easily sold on international markets. The economic pressure began to build. At the same time, global politics were entering a tense period known as the Cold War. During this era, the United States and the Soviet Union were competing for influence across the world. Western governments feared that political instability in countries like Iran could create opportunities for Soviet influence to expand. In Washington and London, policymakers began to view the situation in Iran through this Cold War lens. The concern was not only about oil anymore, it was also about geopolitics. By 1953, discussions had begun about removing Mossadegh from power. The operation that followed later became known as Operation Ajax. It involved cooperation between intelligence agencies and local political actors inside Iran. The objective was to weaken Mossadegh's government and strengthen the authority of the Shah, Iran's monarch at the time. The plan involved several different strategies. Political pressure, media influence, and organized demonstrations all played a role. Some groups within Iran already opposed Mossadegh's policies. These internal divisions became part of the broader political struggle. During the summer of 1953, tensions in Tehran reached a critical point. Protests and counter-protests filled the streets. Different factions competed for control of the political narrative. For a brief period, it appeared that the attempt to remove Mossadegh had failed. However, the situation changed quickly. On August 19, 1953, events escalated dramatically. Supporters of the Shah, along with elements of the military, moved to take control of key institutions. Mossadegh's government collapsed. He was later arrested and put on trial. The Shah returned to power and remained Iran's ruler for the next 25 years. For decades, the details of these events were surrounded by speculation. However, in the year 2000, the United States released documents acknowledging the involvement of the CIA in the operation. These declassified records confirmed that Operation Ajax had been coordinated as part of a broader effort to influence Iran's political direction. Historians continue to debate the long-term consequences of the coup. Some argue that it temporarily stabilized the region during a tense Cold War period. Others believe it contributed to deeper political tensions inside Iran. In particular, critics suggest that the event damaged trust between Iran and Western governments. That distrust would later become a major factor in the Iranian Revolution of 1979. Understanding the 1953 coup requires looking beyond simple narratives. It was not only a story of foreign intervention, it was also shaped by internal political divisions, economic pressures, and global strategic fears. History rarely unfolds because of a single cause. Instead, it is usually the result of multiple forces interacting at the same time. In the case of Iran in 1953, oil, geopolitics, and domestic politics all converged. Today, the event remains one of the most studied examples of Cold War-era covert operations. It is also a reminder of how decisions made behind closed doors can influence the political future of entire nations. More than 70 years later, the story of Mossadegh and the 1953 coup continues to shape discussions about sovereignty, foreign policy, and the balance of power in the Middle East. Understanding these historical moments does not mean simplifying them. It means examining the evidence, acknowledging complexity, and recognizing that history is rarely as straightforward as it first appears. Have you ever heard of Operation Ajax? It's a story that feels like it's straight out of a spy thriller, but it actually happened, and it reshaped the Middle East forever. To really get what went down in Iran in 1953, we need to rewind a bit. For decades, Britain had a tight grip on Iran's most valuable resource: oil. The Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, which was mostly British-owned, was making enormous profits, while Iran itself saw very little of that wealth. Imagine a company making billions from your backyard, but only giving you a tiny fraction of the money. That's exactly how many Iranians felt. This created a lot of resentment and fueled a powerful wave of nationalism across the country. Enter Mohammad Mossadegh. In 1951, this charismatic, democratically elected prime minister did something incredible. He nationalized the oil industry, taking control back from the British. For Iranians, he was a national hero, a symbol of independence. But for Britain, this was a catastrophe. They immediately imposed a global boycott on Iranian oil, crippling the nation's economy. The once bustling oil industry ground to a halt, and Iran's financial situation became desperate. This is where the United States comes in. Initially, the US was hesitant to get involved. But as the Cold War heated up, they started to worry. With Iran's economy in freefall and its government unstable, Washington feared that the country might fall under Soviet influence. The powerful Tudeh Party, Iran's Communist Party, was gaining strength, and this set off alarm bells in the West. So, the CIA and Britain's MI6 teamed up. Their mission, codenamed Operation Ajax, was to overthrow Mossadegh and restore the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, to absolute power. They used propaganda to paint Mossadegh as corrupt and anti-religious, paid protesters to create chaos in the streets, and bribed key military and political figures. In August 1953, their plan worked. After a few tense days of confusion and street fighting, Mossadegh was arrested, and the Shah returned from his brief exile. The immediate aftermath was swift. The Shah consolidated his power, cracking down on all political dissent with his secret police, the Savak. The oil industry was denationalized, but not back to the old British monopoly. Instead, an international consortium was formed, with American companies getting a major 40% stake. Internationally, the reaction was mixed, but telling. Western governments quietly celebrated a victory against potential communism. However, for many in the developing world, the coup was a stark lesson. A sovereign nation's democratic will could be crushed by foreign interests. This event planted deep seeds of anti-American sentiment in Iran, which would ultimately erupt 26 years later in the 1979 Islamic Revolution. Operation Ajax isn't just a historical footnote. It's a critical event whose consequences we are still living with today. Thanks for watching. If you found this story fascinating, be sure to like and subscribe for more deep dives into history. See you next time.